Hi, I'm Kate and I make junk journals, and today we're going to make this page. So here's a page I already did that has the idea that we're going to copy from, and I'm just going to flip through it real quick so you can see what we're going to do. We have this little trifold there, a secret little tuck spot behind there, and then this whole thing flips up, and then you can put a tag back there because it's a belly band. And then this whole thing folds open, and there's a tag there, a Matchbox writing spot there. That's also a little pocket. And then this whole thing is a quadruple fold. And this also flips up. And this is just a little tag spot. And it closes, and then this whole thing is a pocket as well. And we have one more card in the back. So we're just going to take a look at this and try to recreate it. So as our base page, I'm just going to cut from a 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. Again, you can use any paper you want as long as it's sturdy and can hold structure, because these pages that we're making have a lot of stuff on them, and you do not want your paper underneath not being able to hold it up or bear the weight when you sew it into a journal. So as long as it's just a little bit cardstock or you've reinforced it somehow, it will work. So for the last two tutorials, we made pages for a 5 by 7 book. So I'm going to continue on so that we can put this one in the same book, and we'll slowly build something. So that means I'm going to cut this to be 7 by 10 inches so that when I fold it, it will be a 5 by 7. And because last time we rounded the corners, I'm going to round these corners as well. Okay. I tend to either round all the edges or leave them pointed, and then that just gives me kind of a variety of design looks. But I definitely want it to kind of be thematic throughout the whole thing. So we're totally going around here, and we pretty much round every corner that we can. And then also I'm using this Tim Holtz Distress Ink weathered wood, and we're just going to lightly dust all the edges to give it a little bit of dimension and texture. And then also it will be repeated throughout the whole journal, so it gives us a little bit of uniformity and design. So let's fold this in half, and we will make it a 5 by 7 page, and we're going to do this side. So if you notice, the main construct of this page is it's just a big coffee dyed paper that we have glued here, and everything is on the coffee dyed paper. So that's what we're going to do first. And I'm going to use this paper. It's also a coffee dyed paper, just a little more splattery. And we're going to cut this so that the height is 7 inches, so it lines up with the back page. Okay, awesome. Okay, and I'm going to keep this the same length as the paper originally was, because this whole thing is going to fold open, so I want it as long as I can get it. And if I had an even longer paper, I would just keep folding it forever. The different categories I try to think of to make my journals all kind of look like they belong together is I will either go for warm or cool tones, and then either kind of lean more organic or more structured and geometric. Is the overall feel saturated and bright and bold, or desaturated and soft? And I know that nothing is going to stand out as obviously not fitting in this journal. So let's round these corners as well, and then kind of re-ink those because I didn't before. So let's line it up to where we want to make sure there's some space here. We're going to be putting a card there, and this is the spine of the book. So let's pretend this was sewn in a book together, and we open the page, and this is glued on, and it's a pocket. Then if we have bulk here, and if it's full of pages and it doesn't quite open all the way, it might be kind of hard to get this journal out if this is raised up with lots of pages. So see if that's bent up, or it's a tough squeeze out. So if this is really bendable, it helps because then it can slide in and bend. If it's cardstock, you're really going to want to give yourself lots of space from that spine. We'll probably use something a little bit soft so that we can curl in case there is bulk. But I also want to make sure that I'm just leaving space so that I don't ever make it awkward to open a pocket. So I'm going to keep it about right there, and then I'm just going to fold to where the edge of the paper is. And then I'm just going to glue these 3 sides. Okay, so now that those are glued, I am going to, oh my gosh, I just did the wrong side. Okay, so I'm going to change everything and put this going this way all the way to the edge, and our pocket is now on the outside. And that's nice because now we don't have to worry about it getting too close to the spine of the book. So there we go. Well, if I knew that was going to happen, I would want to pre-inked that, but I'll just kind of fake it and kind of try to get some ink on that to give it a little bit more separation. There we go. Okay, so I guess here's a little different way to make it. So to finish folding this, we're going to want to just line up our fold a little bit closer than this back line. This is not going to be the way we fold it. We're just going to make a little crease so that we see where to fold it, and then we'll fold it this way because we want it tucked in so that it's like open, just like that. Okay, so let's take a look at the top, and we have a scrapbook paper that just opens up with paper on top of it. So let's do this base page first. So I'm just going to grab some more scrapbook paper, and I'm going to measure from the edge of that to the edge of this. And now, because it is now by the spine, like I said before, how sometimes that's bulky around the edge, I don't ever like to have a pocket opening up right next to the middle of the spine. So I'm actually going to move it over a little bit and keep it about like that. Okay, so we have this, and something we need to keep in mind is that this top strip is pretty bulky, and this bottom pocket is very bulky, and we don't want them lining up at all, so we want that to stay on the upper half, on the bottom half, because then that sandwiches really nicely, and it doesn't get too thick in one spot. It's actually really even. So we're going to try to do that and keep it on the top half. So we're going to take the card and just kind of estimate how tall you want it. It doesn't really matter as long as it doesn't start intruding on that bottom half. That looks good. And then I'm just going to cut it right there. Okay, and we're going to round just the bottom corners. It's kind of fun to see a rounded edge and then that little triangle point of the underneath part. Gives us a little bit more going on, and also kind of helps say, hey, look, I think this is a flap. So we're going to do that as well. And you guessed it, we're going to dust the edges with ink. It just gives me a little bit of texture and something going on. Maybe ink the crease a little bit, kind of spill over the edges, something like that. And then I just want to make sure there's plenty of ink at both of these little corners because they do peek through, and I kind of want them to be blue instead of stark white. Okay, so we're going to put that somewhere up there, and we're just going to glue 2 sides to make that a belly band. So we'll take this and press it down somewhere along the top, away from that spine. Press that in. Okay, so now with those 2 glued, I can slip a tag behind this whole thing, and it'll peek out like that. Okay, let's do this top part. I have this long strip of paper, so I just need something that can be folded at least 2 times. And I have this old piece of notebook paper that I can use. That's, you know, a little bit smaller than that, but that'll be close enough. And I do kind of like that this opens, so I'm just gonna let that be like that and not trim this part off. And then we can kind of add even more to this little front page pockets, because that is always so much fun to do, right? Who wants to make the same thing anyway? We gotta change it up a little. So we're going to make sure this strip is a little bit thinner than this bottom strip so that we can see a border. So I'm going to cut the bottom end that's not together about right there. Okay, so we've got that trimmed down, and we're going to fold it one time on this side first. And as I fold it, what I'm looking for is, I know that there's going to be another pocket here, so I want a little bit space on this side, and I know I'm going to clasp it over here, and I need this to tuck in. So I need about maybe right there-ish. And that gives me room for the pocket, room for a little clasp on this back end so it can tuck inside something there. So once I have that down, I'll just fold my other side and I will just give it a tiny border, and it can be as close as you want, but it's kind of nice and looks good to have a nice little border. And then that will be our underneath fold, and it will go like that. So a little trifold, and we'll stick a clasp here to keep it secure. Before we do that, I'm going to round the corners and ink the edges. I'm going to open it up and ink the middle as well, because you'll be able to see that when you open up this little, I don't know what to call it, trifold fold up flap. This is one of the problems when you try to do new things and then post it online and it comes time to like put a title or something. I'm like, I don't know, it's just paper. So does anybody else struggle naming their journals? I'm always like, I don't know, floral, bright, happy, junk journal, secret, writing, surprise. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. Let's also round these bottom two corners actually, because those will line up nicely with those two rounded edges, and I definitely want that. There we go. See, that looks way nicer. All right, let's glue this on the back side in 3 spots so that we can also make it a pocket. Okay, so we're just going to push that on, and again, we're going to make sure we leave more room on that side for our pocket. Press it in. Look at that, that is pretty awesome. So now all we need for the front pocket is a little clasp and then a little paper to put in right there. So let's find a clasp. We'll pull from my little cute stuff. I actually like this a lot. It is too long, but I can always cut it and then it will look pretty cute, I think. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'm just gonna cut it somewhere. Just kind of trace where that line is. Grab my scissors and we'll just kind of snip off the edge of that, and then we'll kind of line that up. So I'm going to just glue a strip right along here. Okay, and we'll just press that down, slide it a little closer to the edge. I don't want it going over to the edge or it will make it really awkward to open. So I'll just leave a tiny, tiny, tiny border. Okay, so once that's dry, that just clasps in nice like that and holds it closed. And it opens up really nicely. Yeah, that's super fun. Okay, I love that. All right, now let's just get a little piece of paper to tuck in our pocket. Okay, so I'm going to use this, and I am going to just roll it a little bit in and then one more time. And for sure, this is going to be thin enough to be able to fit in between those two glue strips. And I'm going to trim this first right there. Okay, so that's cut down to this little trifold. And I'm just going to slip this in and put it in as deep as it will go, and then mark where I want to cut it. So a little bit less than what sticks out. And we'll just snip that off and around the corners. And ink the edges. And I think I'm going to put a stamp on the inside. I love it when there's little surprises when you open secret things. And I'm going to put a crown on there, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of ink and press it on there. There we go. And then whenever we open this, we'll remember we're queens. All right, let's tuck that in there where it goes. Okay, so we did our top, and we're just going to open it up, and first we'll do this lace border. So I'm just going to grab something fairly lightweight and very vaguely measure the top to the bottom and snip it off. And then I'm going to put a strip of glue right where I want it to go. And then I'll just lay that on top, and I want the edges to kind of peek out so when we open it we can see the lace on the other side as well. Press that down. And then we can just snip the edges. See, it just got so fancy. Now we're gonna do this quadruple pocket. So this is a 12-inch sheet of scrapbook paper. So I'm gonna do that same thing. And I'm gonna use this. So I'm gonna measure a little bit smaller than this white space. Again, trying to stay pretty far away from that edge since it's the spine. So I'll probably come in about that much. Okay, so what I'm gonna do with this is I'm gonna just fold it in half and barely crease one edge so that I know where the middle is. And I am not going to fold it evenly because I want the top fold to be the smallest and then have it gradually get larger as you go down. And I do this because it needs to nest into each other. So if we turn it to the side, you can see that this doesn't quite reach the edge right there. And so that when it folds, it has some room in there. And same with this, it doesn't go quite to that folding edge. And then there's some room so that when you put bulk in it and it kind of gets fatter, the edges can go in a little bit and it will still nest together really nice in a pocket. So that's important, and we're gonna do that by keeping in mind where the halfway mark is and not bringing this all the way there and just leaving a little bit of room before we crease. And then when we fold it again, we're going to just make sure by looking in that that edge has some room, and then you can kind of pinch that off. And then the same thing with this, just make sure that there's a little bit of room, and it doesn't need to be a ton. Oh, also this does not need to line up at the bottom. It's kind of nice if it's close, but I would rather have room on the edges than have my bottom edges line up. Hopefully that made sense, but if it doesn't, you can always learn by trial and error, and that is honestly a better teacher. Give it a little bit more texture. Okay, so I'm gonna refold this back up, and this is our bottom layer, and that will be what is attached, and we're gonna glue it on 3 sides to make a pocket. Okay, and we're just gonna press this down. We do not want it to go all the way to the bottom just because it always looks nicer to have a border. And again, always keeping it away from the spine, and that will work. And we'll be able to stick a tag right in that. And now we can work on these top parts. So let's start with this little Matchbox writing space. I'm just gonna grab some scrap paper. This will work. And I'm going to measure it to be a little bit shorter than our pocket. So something just like that. And then I'm not going to trim the length yet because I'm not exactly sure how much I'll need. I'm going to start by folding in one side and gluing right inside that little crease, just along the edge, not very far. And I'll just grab some washi tape and put it across kind of close to the edge, but not all the way, leaving extra room on either side to kind of wrap around and stick on the back. And now I'll be able to figure out where I want this fold to be. I'm going to bring it just along about there, again, leaving space for a border. And this time I only folded it once, but we have this extra paper, so we might as well just keep folding, right? So to make sure that this edge folds into the matchbook clasp correctly, I'm just going to line this up backwards by folding it back, and I only want this to go in a little bit because we've got that glue at the bottom and I don't want to have to work really hard shoving it in there. So we'll just kind of make a seam there, pull it out, and press it the way we want it to go. And since this is too long to fold, I'll just cut it in there so that we don't get too bulky. Okay, let's see how we did. So if we fold that, that should slip in here and hold itself shut. So we're going to make this whole thing a pocket that opens up at the bottom. So we're going to glue these 3 sides. Okay, and then we're going to keep that open at the bottom, put it kind of in the middle, just like that. And we ought to round the corners just to keep with our super round theme, and ink those off just a little bit. Okay, let's fold this up and find something to put in that little bottom pocket. This will do nicely. Look at that, perfect fit. Well, I suppose we should add a little bit more decor just because it is a little plain. Here we go. I really like using words. I think it looks really nice. So put a little glue on the back, and we'll put that in that bottom corner. There we go. Here's a little dream page. All right, let's go to the next layer. We have a pocket. This pocket is pretty cool because there's lots of writing space on it. Here is something that is pretty cool, but it is a little too short. So I think what I'm going to do is use it, but I'm going to glue 2 sides instead of 3, and then it will be a tuck instead of a pocket. And we're just going to glue those 2 sides, the top and the side, and put it right there. Okay, that looks good. So let's find a little tag to put in that. And we'll just slip a little paper in there, and that will work. Okay, next level. We have, this is a trifold, and it's just coffee dyed paper. I think I'm going to use avocado dyed paper for this. And I'm going to just measure it to be a little bit smaller than this pocket. So we're going to use that same nesting principle where the top fold is the smallest, and then it gets a little bit bigger and bigger. So we're just going to kind of watch that and peek around the edge as I fold these down, and I'm going to fold it 2 times. I don't need quite as much space because this won't be bulky, but I don't want those edges to be rubbing against each other in the inside still. So we'll still give them a little bit of room, and we'll trim off this edge. All right, so that should line up in there. And I'm only gonna round the outer corners. And I'm just gonna ink very lightly in just a few places to cool it off just a little bit. Okay, let's fold that down. And we have several options here. We could make another pocket, but I'm just gonna put glue across the whole back because this is already getting pretty bulky and I'm starting to get nervous about adding too much more. Get it all on there. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of look around and see if the borders are just kind of even, smooth it out. Okay, so we have this quadruple pocket all done. The last thing we need to do is add the card that was supposed to go on the inside like this, but because I messed up, it goes on the outside like that. Now I'll just grab this card and slip it in the whole back thing, and we did it. Okay, let's do our grand finale flip through. So here is that top, whatever I called it, flippity flap fold thing. With this little secret tucked behind it. And the whole thing opens up with the card behind it. And this opens with some pretty lace, with a tag. And then here's this little matchbook with this little tag that comes out the bottom. Ooh, if I can grab it. Here's that little tuck spot with a little paper behind it, and this little trifold at the top. Oh, look, we did 4. That's funny. I thought I did 3. I said I wouldn't add anything, but I accidentally did. I guess my heart just wanted more. Okay, so, oh, and then I almost forgot this little tag. Great. I do have another version that I made of this. I actually made a whole tutorial of this, but the audio didn't record, so lucky me, I got to do it twice. But that's okay because it was fun both times. So this one, I have this triple fold with the little secret. pocket. Oh, I did the crown again. See, I knew my heart wanted to do that crown. And I have tags that go behind. Here's their little fancy lace with a tag here, the Matchbox pocket, this little tag. Here I also did a tuck, and I have this cute little jar card. And here is folding up paper and a card behind everything. So there you go. Here's 3 different versions of this template. And you can really mix it up and do it a lot of different ways. This is just what I did. Thanks so much for crafting with me today. If you make one of these, I would love to see it. You can tag me on Instagram at Kate's Junk Journal. Please let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you in the comments. And when you come back next time, we'll do the back page of this. See you next time.